so he comes up to me like 6 years later, and he said that. And he goes, yeah, she did. She took it to so-and-so. And I'm like, I'm positive she did not.
Welcome, everyone. Before we begin our meeting, we will have a prayer by Councilman Hussey, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Today is Constitution Day in our country, and on this day we reflect and express appreciation for the rights bestowed us as citizens in this country. The right of freedom of expression, the right to exercise the religion of our choosing, the right to petition our government, as some will do here tonight, the right to peaceably assemble, and so many other rights. We fulfill our civic duty by meeting here this evening to represent our community and to serve and advocate for issues and concerns that have been brought to us. We express our gratitude to all those in our history who have ensured these rights today for us, and all who will continue to stand for our freedoms today, here and around the world. Let us fulfill the ideals of our Constitution through our work here this evening. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now call to order the Monday, September 17th, 2018 City Council meeting. Mrs. Donaldson, roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Present.
Graham. Hensley.
Here.
Hussey.
Here.
Kimna.
Here.
Mahalovich.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Ward. Here. Wiseman.
Item 3, adoption of agenda. Councilman Mahalovich.
I'd like to move move to alter the agenda to allow under item 4C, the resolution RS 2018-15 regarding the agreement Memorial Day weekend.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I also noticed we have a Boy Scout in the audience this evening. And if we have a few Boy Scouts, if you'd like to come forward this evening to the podium and let us know your name and what school you're from and maybe what badge you're working on tonight. Welcome. We're glad to have you here.
I'm Jonathan Isaacs. I go to Thomas Jefferson Middle School, and I'm here working on Communications Merit Badge.
Welcome.
I'm Jaden Schlatter. I go to LC, or Lewis and Clark Middle School, and I'm working on Communications Merit Badge.
Welcome.
I'm Bradley Slayton, and I'm from Lewis and Clark Middle School, and I'm doing the same thing as them.
Welcome.
I'm Evan Dunn. I go to St. Peter's, and I'm working on Communications Merit Badge.
Welcome. We're glad to have all of you here tonight. Thank you for being here. Item 4, miscellaneous agenda items. Item A, we have a proclamation presented to Linda Dunbar of Daughters of the American Revolution designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. So if you'd like to come forward, glad to have you here tonight. And the prayer was very appropriate that Councilman Hussey gave celebrating Constitution Week as well.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you here tonight. If you'd like to tell us what you're doing with for the Constitution
I'll tell you a
Week.
little bit. We are doing it a little bit different this year. We've included 2 other schools, the Immaculate Conception School and Holy Family out in Freeburg. We took them Constitution books. We're asking, it's a 7th grade class, and they're signing a pledge to say they're going to read the Constitution. So the teachers are taking care of that for us. And downtown, we have 2 presentations set up in Tolson's Drugstore and Samuel's Tuxedos. And then we have our large Constitution posters that we have in Carrie's Hallmark. Thank you for that. Sure. And Safi's American Shoe and the Hill and Stream Event Center. So that's our main things. And we're really proud of this week. It is the whole week. It's September 17th through the 23rd. And it became, I'm not sure if you know about the history of it. Can I explain the history?
Sure.
Okay. In 1955, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the National Society, petitioned to the Congress to establish this week so that we could honor our Constitution. And it was President Eisenhower approved it finally in 1956, but it wasn't until 2002 when President Bush actually signed and designated this week as Constitution Week. So that's just something the Daughters of the American Revolution is very proud of.
Well, we really appreciate your dedication to that and some wonderful educational opportunities. So hopefully all of our scouts in the audience will find those constitutions posted around town or look them up and read them. And I think that's wonderful that you're putting out that suggestion for everyone. And it's something that whether you're a student or any of us alike should be familiar with and read. So we appreciate your dedication. And in honor of Constitution Week, we have a special proclamation. And I'll give you a few highlights of that. Whereas September 17th, 2018 marks the 231st anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and it is fitting and proper to record official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. So we look forward to celebrating that right here in Jefferson City. So thank you for your work on this, and we'll get a picture up here with the proclamation, and if council wants to get behind me, we'll have a picture for you to share. Thank you. All right, the next item, we have item B. We will recognize Jefferson City's United Way Committee. So if all of those would come forward or come to the podium and tell us a little bit about some of the city's efforts for United Way, for our Pace Setter campaign. We're very proud of that, so we will welcome you to tell us a little bit about what what you did and our recognitions. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Britt Smith, as many of you know, and it was my honor to chair the United Way campaign committee this year. Most of our committee members weren't able to be with us tonight, but we do have Katrina Williams and Jill Brenner, from which are two of our members, and the remaining of our members were Kay Stiefer from the Police Department, Angie Tobin with Parks and Recreation, Brenda Wunderlich with the Public Works Department, Amy Schroeder with the Parks and Recreation Department, Jennifer, I'm going to mispronounce her name, I always do, everybody knows Jennifer Skapanik from administration, and then of course myself. As I said, it was my honor to chair this year, but I had the opportunity to be the chair that really didn't have to do anything, because Jennifer and the rest of the committee really took on this year's task and were able to step up and did just a phenomenal job. Some of the events that we held this year were Chick-fil-A Tuesday, where we sold breakfast biscuits for 4 Tuesday mornings next to City Hall and out in front of the police department. We also held a rummage sale on the parking lot across the way, where employees came and paid a little bit of money that went to the United Way to be there, and then most of them and many of them donated their proceeds from that sale onto the United Way as well. We held a tailgate cross tournament, otherwise known as cornhole, and had great participation from our employees, and are sending our champion, who we're expecting to bring home the gold at the community-wide cornhole tournament that should be held at the beginning of October. And then finally, we had an ice cream social where we told a little bit about what the United Way does for our community. And with that, I'd just like to highlight that the United Way works in this community to change the lives of the citizenry. In other words, they're changing the game. By the support of the 28 member agencies throughout and numerous other charities through one-time grants, the United Way is able to touch 1 out of every 2 people within our local boundaries. And 91 cents of every dollar donated to the United Way is used right here in our community. And we're very grateful for that work. And our employees stepped up. And with 31% participation from our employees through direct giving, as well as through the fundraisers, we were able to raise over $19,000 this year. And so we're quite proud of that.
Well, congratulations on that.
You guys want to come? All right.
Well, great job on raising that money. It has such a positive impact on our community. And in addition, we also won a Pace Setter Award. Well, we have the award for the fundraising and also for the shoe that you see outside. All the companies that participated in Pace Setter decorated a shoe, and they were judged, and the city of Jefferson won an award for one of the best shoes.
Right. Converse, the traditional Converse Award, if I'm not butchering that name too much. And Jennifer did a lion's share of the work, as well as our Parks and Recreation maintenance crews built the backdrop, and it's out in front of City Hall, and we're quite proud of it.
Well, we should be proud. And we also have with us this United Way of Central Missouri 2018 Pace Setter Baseball, which has been autographed by the Big Brothers and Big Sisters. They've all signed it, and how nice of them to give that to us, because Big Brothers, Big Sisters is one of the organizations that is helped by United Way. So we appreciate what the city has done, all the city employees that worked so hard, all of you. I know we've enjoyed having the Chick-fil-A and all the different fundraisers that you've had, and many city council members have raised money as well or participated in these fundraisers, and the public, so we have to thank everyone. Is there anything to add by council members? Well, this time, if you would want to come forward, we'd love to get a picture, and if any other city staff that's in the room, if all of the city staff would want to come forward, and council behind, we'll just try to get a big picture, although I don't know who will take it. Maybe someone can take it for you, Gail, if somebody would volunteer. If we could have all the city folks up here. And you might have seen, although I didn't wear it tonight, but the mayor's cheerleading outfit. So I was half Jays, half Helias, half Blair Oaks, somehow cheerleading at the United Way, because it's a sports theme. So I definitely will bring the spirit, the school spirit for this. But thank you again for all the money that you all raised.
Don't worry about it. We're just filming. Mark's
right, and now we have moved to item C. We have Resolution 2018-15, and this is authorizing agreement with Memorial Day Weekend Salute to Veterans Corporation. We have some visitors here this evening if they would like to come forward. We have Mary Posner, the chair, and then Dayton Shepard, air boss, and Jessica Houston, media chair, with us this evening, and we are very excited to hear about this event. So if you all would like to. Oh yes, sure, absolutely. Please bring everybody. Yes, please do. We would love for everybody to come forward, and you can tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll take up the associated resolution. Oh, right here, and you can just lift the microphone back up, and we would love to hear about this. So welcome.
Thank you very, very much. Come on, team, up here and keep me coming.
All right. And you can lift it a little bit more if you want. There you go. Okay, thank you.
First of all, I owe you from the bottom of my heart a thank you. Some of you know I've already had the opportunity to say it to you personally, but I really mean it, because in effect you've saved the 31st annual Salute to Veterans celebration by allowing us to do it here. So it actually was something my father told me many, many years ago. By the way, he was dean of the law school at the University of Missouri. And he told me that the career I had for 25 years in New York City in international advertising, marketing, and public relations was because very brave men and women risked their lives to give me the right to do it. And he said, when you come home, figure out a way to say thank you. So 30 years ago I did, and that was the very first Salute to Veterans celebration. It has grown, as you may have noticed, because others believe the same way you do and the same way we do. And once again, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary. We're looking forward to this event coming to Jefferson City next Memorial Day. So we appreciate that. And I know you have a lot of guests with you this evening, and we appreciate all of you being here. Is there anything that you all would like to add this evening?
Okay, guys, you're on.
Yeah, feel free to introduce, have introductions, and.
My name is Mark Comley. I'm a local lawyer. Sometimes I'm Ryan Mullman's associate, but at any rate, again, I'll underscore the gratitude that the air show folks have for the cooperation, the generous help that the council and the committee has shown already. And I think everybody is very excited about having the event here.
Wonderful.
I'm Terry Arisum. I'm the Assistant Director of Security Coordination for the Air Show, longtime volunteer, and I'm also a Jefferson City resident. So I'm very, very proud of what's going to happen here in Jefferson City. Thank you all so much.
Wonderful. And then Jessica, our media chair.
Yeah, Jessica Houston. I serve as the media chair for Salute to Veterans, so I am beyond thrilled to work with the city more directly. I've worked with them a bit in the past, obviously, but very excited to work with them directly in bringing the show to the city.
Great.
I can't believe how I got her. She was my first intern for Salute to Veterans when she was a student at the University of Missouri.
Wow. Great. Wonderful.
I'm Dayton Shepard. I'm the air boss, and I'll be directing the air show. I want to thank all of your staff, because so far they have been very helpful in trying to get everything so we could decide that yes, we can do it here, and we look forward to performing and having a good show for you.
Wonderful. Well, Jefferson City is very much looking forward to this, and any opportunity we have to celebrate our veterans is really wonderful for our community and the surrounding area. And we look forward to continuing to work with Columbia with the construction they have going. That's how it has moved, so it makes sense, and we're just so thankful we have a place here in Jefferson City at our Memorial Airport that will be a perfect spot to host.
One more time, ma'am. You saved us.
Thank you, Mary. Well, you all stay put because when we're done, I want to give Jessica something to use on your media here. We'll get a picture, but let's take up the resolution first. So do we have a motion for Resolution 15?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Oh, never mind, read it. Yes, let's see what we're voting on here.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute an agreement with Memorial Day Weekend Salute to Veterans Corporation.
All right, we have our motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham. Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna. Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward. Aye. Wiseman.
Resolution passes. We will look forward to this event and working on it together, and we appreciate our Jefferson City Airport. We also have Mr. Kraft in the audience working with our airport, so it'll take a lot of coordination and efforts together, but we are so excited to do this. So if you all would come forward, we'll
I
get a
should
picture.
have brought him up with me, ma'am.
Well, come on up. We'll come up for the picture.
He
so.
is definitely one of mine.
Absolutely. We'll share him. So if council would want to come up, we'll do a picture together. All right, item 5, public hearings. 5A, adopting the 2019 budget. Mrs. Donaldson?
2018-34, and an ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri adopting a budget and personnel classification plan for the city for the period of November 1, 2018 to October 31st, 2019, and appropriating money in the city treasury to pay the cost of operating the city government during that period in accordance with the budget.
Mrs. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the clerk read, the proposed appropriation for the budget for the period November 1st, 2018 to October 31st, 2019 from the general fund is projected to be $32,807,390.05, with additional funding from other funds and for capital projects, bringing the total City of Jefferson budget for fiscal year 19 to $65,435,037.53.
Thank you. Any questions before we open the public hearing? All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing for 2018-34. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak to that bill? All right. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing portion. And council will take this bill up. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, would like to thank the Budget Committee, made up of the entire council and chaired by Councilman Prather, for all the fine work that you did. There are many meetings that go into this, a lot of time and effort put in by every council member and also staff. Mrs. Miller, we appreciate you and city staff and your department for working hard on giving us a great budget to work with. So it's always difficult, but you make it something that we can manage, and we appreciate it very much. All right. Roll call, please.
Graham. Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Bill passes. Item B, Bill 2018-48.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 5 acres of land addressed as 1720 Beath Drive from RS2 low-density residential to RA1 high-density residential.
Mr. Barron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nope. Can you advance to the next slide?
This bill deals with property located on Veith Drive, about 1/4 of a mile north of Route C. Up on the screen is a location map with Route C kind of toward the bottom of the screen, and the property highlighted with black hatching lines. It is the location of Jeff City Manor, which is a senior living home. Next slide. The property is currently zoned in RS2, which is a single-family residential zoning district. It is what's referred to as a non-conforming use with respect to zoning, in that a nursing home, assisted living facility, is not a permitted use of the RS2 single-family district. And so the property owners have applied to rezone the property to an RA1, a multifamily residential zoning district where assisted living facilities are a permitted use of that district. This item was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission and recommended for approval at their meeting of September 17th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have prior to opening the public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Barron? All right, at this time, we will open the public hearing for 2018-48. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this bill this evening? Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Paul Sampson with Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. Also in the audience is Mr. Ben Shulin, who is the Chief Operating Officer of JMS Senior Living, who is the owner of the property in question. JMS Senior Living is a Jefferson City-based company that's been in operation since 1966 and owns and operates 9 skilled nursing facilities throughout Missouri, including Jefferson City Manor, which has been in operation in town since 1974. As Mr. Barron said, we're asking to rezone the property from RS2 to RA1. Prior to the meeting, I've got some handouts that I gave you. It's a little bit clearer view of what's on the screen there. During a recent remodeling and cafeteria expansion that was completed in 2017, the city staff informed the property owners that the property that they owned was a non-conforming use because in 2002 the zoning code was amended and changed to prohibit nursing homes in single-family zoning districts. At that time, the owners had the option of applying for rezoning, or the other option was to use a one-time expansion of a non-conforming use that's allowed by the city code. Due to the time constraints of their construction project, they opted to go with the one-time non-conforming use expansion. Because the nursing home is still a non-conforming use and the one-time expansion has been used already, any new construction on the property and any expansions of the building would be prohibited, including reconstruction following any damage due to a fire or storm. That puts the property owner in a little bit of a precarious position should there be any damage to the building. And that's the main reason for the rezoning request. I think at the last city council meeting it was mentioned that the property owners are wanting to build I think last week it was called a shed. It's really a pre-engineered storage and maintenance building that would be used by the Jefferson City Manor for storage and maintenance equipment and that type of thing. I think there was also a question raised as to the timing of the rezoning request. You might recall that last year there was a PUD plan and a rezoning for the property to the south that was approved by the city council. That plan, if you remember, included the construction of or proposed construction of a preschool, an additional nursing facility, and a maintenance building. Well, after further discussion amongst themselves, the owners have decided that the maintenance building that was proposed on that southern property at the time would be better utilized on the Jefferson City Manor property, which is why we're here today asking for the rezoning. The rezoning of the property of a nursing home from a single-family residential to a RA1 zoning is not unusual throughout the city. There's also a exhibit in your packet showing other nursing homes throughout the city that are located surrounded by single-family zoning districts whereas the nursing homes are zoned at a minimum of an RS2, and there's one even that's zoned a C1, the nursing home on Eastwood Drive on the east side of town. So as you can see from that, what we're asking is not extraordinary or unusual within the city. With that, I will answer any questions, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sampson? Okay. Councilman Fitzwater.
Not related to this project, I guess, but is the other project still on track?
The other project is, they went through the final design phase. We've got plans submitted to the city right now that are currently under review. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Ward?
Under the PUD zoning for their storage shed, equipment shed,
Pre-engineered building.
engineered building, sorry. Well, was that to be engineered in a certain, with certain standards, a certain criteria based upon a PUD zoning, that when it's now being built under this zoning, it won't be under those same standards?
I don't think there was any specific standard that was required by the PUD. I think the owners with the previous proposal had the building more towards Beath Drive that would be more visible from people that would be going by the street. So they were anticipating having to use a higher level of finishes on the building. The proposed maintenance building will be back behind the existing manor, and you won't be able to see it from anywhere other than their parking lot. So the level of finishes on that building wouldn't be the same as what they would do if it were facing Beath Drive.
Do you know what those levels of finishes
It's basically
will
a
be?
pre-engineered painted metal building. Right.
I'm just concerned for those property owners across the street that do live there.
They will
and
never
they
see
won't-
it.
Okay.
Never
Okay.
see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One other thing that I might add, with the RA1 zoning that we're requesting, there's really very little other uses that could be used on that property with the buildings in the configuration that they are. I think there's maybe some concern of what else could go there. Really, you're talking about, if for some reason the daycare would close, which there's absolutely no intention of that, but you're really limited to things like daycares and things like that. And with the size of the building, it's really not practical for much anything else than what's there now.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right. Any further questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Anyone else here to speak this evening on this bill? Okay. And thank you also for JMS for being here this evening. So at this time, I'll close the public hearing portion, and we'll take up Bill 2018-48. Is there any council discussion, comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Bill passes. 2018-49.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 2 acres of land addressed as 2106 Jefferson Street in 2003 and 2007 Southridge Drive from C1 Neighborhood Commercial RD Residential Duplex and RS2 Single Family Residential to PUD Planned Unit Development and approving a preliminary PUD plan for 14.4 acres of property.
Mr. Barron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, to orient you to the location of this property, up on the screen is a location map. Toward the upper right-hand corner of the screen is Southwest Boulevard with its intersection of Route C and also its intersection of Jefferson Street and the overchange over Highway 54. So this property has frontage on both Jefferson Street and Southridge Drive. It's a property highlighted there. It is a location of Central Electric Power Cooperative, a fairly sizable property. As the clerk read, this bill has two parts. One part is a rezoning of a portion of the property that they recently acquired, and then the second part is approval of a PUD plan for major redevelopment of their site. And so first with the rezoning, the property is shown up on the screen with the existing zoning. Toward the upper right-hand corner of the property is some C1 and RS2 zoning, and although it cannot be seen at the scale, a small bit of RD zoning. And so they're proposing to rezone these four recently acquired properties from those zoning districts to a PUD, Planned Unit Development District, in order to consolidate their entire property under a PUD zoning. And then also approval of a PUD plan for redevelopment of their site. Up on the screen is the PUD site plan. It is a major redevelopment of the site. It includes demolition and reconstruction of a portion of their main office building, construction of a new vehicle storage building, and then also a third building located at the northwest corner of the site where those rezonings would be occurring. The staff were particularly interested in ensuring that there's proper screening in between that northwest corner of their property, as it is close to a single-family residential neighborhood. And so up on the screen is a blow-up of that portion of the PUD plan where a line of landscaping trees, also some screening and fencing, as well as ensuring that the building, which would be located right here, the side facing the neighborhood would have some exterior finishes that are respective of the residential neighborhood that they border. The applicants were concerned about the timing of the construction of that building. It's possible that it may be delayed by who knows, several years, or possibly constructed right away. So they did build an option into the PUD plan where they would not utilize that portion of the property except to screen a small portion of it, or fence in a small portion of it for a small lay-down yard, but still ensure that there's a proper separation there so that they're not, again, encroaching on the neighborhood. This rezoning and PUD plan was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their September 17th meeting and was recommended for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have prior to opening the public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Barron? Okay, at this time we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on Bill 2018-49? Welcome.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Adam Weber. I'm the Director of Operations at Central Electric Power Cooperative. And we kind of have an unusual business, so there's probably a lot of you that may not be very familiar with what we do. But we are a transmission cooperative utility, one of 6 in Missouri. And we have 8 customers, and those are the distribution cooperative owners of Central Electric. So we sell wholesale energy to these 8 cooperatives. You may be familiar with Three Rivers or Como or Callaway Cooperative, and those are some of them that own us, that we sell to. But our service territory is made up of 26 counties, from Sedalia to St. Charles County, and from Moberly down towards the Vienna-Dixon area. So our main office and really our only place of business is in Jefferson City, is this area that we're talking about. We have around 100 employees. Approximately 40 of them work in the field every day, but respond to the Jeff City office each day. And the remainder work in the office in Jeff City every day. So the vast majority of these people are at Jeff City area for homeowner and living. And in general, about 2 years ago, we did a 20 to 25 year long-range plan. And what we discovered in doing this plan is that we need more office space, as well as garage and warehouse space for trucks and the unique equipment that we utilize in substations. And so we have over the last couple of years acquired these extra properties that we've talked about, that Eric talked about. And this is all part of our plan for how we would like to add on and rebuild part of our infrastructure here. And again, in general, our desire is to stay here in Jeff City at the existing location. So if we looked at other properties, we have other plans, but the real desire for us is to stay where we are and to stay on the property where we have acquired more recently. So I think Patrick has some more detailed information.
Good evening. Patrick Kramer, Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. As Eric mentioned, as part of the master plan, Central Electric will be replacing and expanding their existing office building with a modern facility, as well as constructing additional storage and warehouse facilities. We've worked closely with city staff to put together a plan that works with Central Electric's long-term goals and satisfies the city's zoning and code requirements to include constructing sidewalks, addressing stormwater and water quality, and providing adequate buffering with conflicting zoning districts. There is additional detailed information regarding the plan within the handouts I've provided. We believe Central Electric is a great business to have in the city, and we're excited to be a part of their long-term development plan, and we hope you feel the same. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer and Mr. Weber. Are there any questions? Okay, we're glad to have you here. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this bill tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and take up Bill 2018-49. Is there any council deliberation? All right, roll call, please.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham. Hensley.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2018-50.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 5 acres generally described as the Sunset Court and McKay Court area, consisting of 21 property parcels from RD to RS4.
Mr. Barron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a staff-initiated rezoning application for a neighborhood, so consisting of a number of properties. To differentiate to the location up on the screen, the area is highlighted with the black line and hatching. Toward the bottom of the screen is the intersection of Southwest Boulevard and Route C, South Archer. And so just to the north is McKay Lake at Sunset Park. And the property consists of houses on the 2 streets, Sunset Court and McKay Court. Here's a little bit of a blow up of the screen. So there's all of the properties fronting on Sunset Court, and then the properties fronting on the east side of McKay Court. As this area has had an RD zoning for a very long time. In fact, it was zoned an RD, which is a residential duplex zoning, prior to its development. So all the neighborhood, which consists entirely of single-family homes, was actually constructed within a zoning district that would have allowed for duplexes, and the zoning has never been downgraded. So staff feel that it is appropriate to downzone this area in order to protect the single-family nature of the area. There's a variety of smaller notes here. The staff have put together a zoning plan in order to establish the new zoning boundaries along the existing property lines in the neighborhood to ensure that no single property has a dual zoning or a split zoning. But in general, it is a down zoning of that RD duplex zoning down to single family and RS4 district. We did conduct a neighborhood informational meeting inviting all the property owners within that area to answer the questions prior to a formal public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission. That neighborhood meeting was held on July 31st. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request at their September 17th meeting, and be happy to answer any, or they did recommend approval of the request. Be happy to answer any questions you have prior to opening the public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, at this time we'll open the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here to speak on 2018-50? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and take up the bill. Is there any council deliberation? Okay, roll call, please.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater,
Aye.
Graham, Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Bill passes. Next, we have appointments by the mayor to boards and commissions. Mrs. Stroop.
Thank you. And we have a number of recommendations for appointments this evening. I'll just kind of read through them. The first one is Melissa Bolden to the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee, Brad Schaefer to the Board of Adjustment, and then we have 2 reappointments to the Board of Adjustment, and that's Sharon Keating and Jay Seaver. And then we have Pam Wren to the Cemetery Resources Board and Lori Sims to the Cultural Arts Commission. Then for the Electrical Examiners and Review Board, we have 2 reappointments, and that's James Gooch and Sam Thomas, and those 2 have both served 2 full terms, so their appointment would require 2/3 majority of the council for a 3rd term. And then the final one is for Brian Weekamp to the Public Transit Advisory Committee.
Okay, any questions? All right, is there a motion to approve these appointments?
So, second.
Any further discussion? Let's do roll call since this does require 2/3. Roll call, please.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather, Schreiber, Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman, Fitzwater,
Aye.
Graham, Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Motion passes, and we appreciate everyone who serves on our boards and commissions. Item 7, presentations from staff consultants and invited guests. We have none today. Item 8, announcements by mayor, council, and staff. And I will start with my announcements this evening. Last Saturday, we had the Missouri State Fire Marshal's 9/11 stair climb at the Jefferson Building, and that was a fundraiser for our fallen firefighters and their families. And people who raised money and climbed the stairs to the top of the Jefferson Building, which is 13 floors, 10 times, and that was to commemorate the number of steps that it took to get to the top of the World Trade Center. And as you went in the stairwells, there were pictures of all the fallen firefighters from 9/11 lining the walls to the entire top, both stairwells. So it was really moving, and it's great that Jefferson City does that. It was the 2nd annual. I will say Nicole has a great live report online that commemorates, that kind of gives a snapshot of what that event was like. So if you haven't seen it, then go to the News Tribune Facebook page to see that. We also had this Saturday, or I guess last Saturday, was Tunnel to Towers. I believe that was the 3rd annual run, and that was also a fundraiser and commemorating 9/11. And that was a 5K downtown this year, and there were many firefighters actually who did that in full gear that ran the Tunnel to Towers, and also the stair climb, to see them with their air packs. As you get to the top and take the elevators down, they would say air packs on this side and others over here, and it was amazing to see them climb as they did with their full gear on, as if they would be prepared to go to any emergency. Those 2 events brought people from all over the state here, and it was really nice to have them here in our community commemorating that. Also, last week we had a motorcycle donated to, it's actually a chopper, donated to the Fire Museum. Many of you were there that day to see the chopper that's decorated, that was donated to the Fire Museum. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to bring your families and see this kind of recreated chopper that has some visual pictures of the 9/11 memorial, and it was really it's a tribute to police and fire and first responders. So very lucky to have that here in Jefferson City at our Fire Museum. Also, Special Olympics Missouri had their grand opening last week, which was outstanding to see the facility open for the first time. And I believe at the end of the month, Councilman Hussey will be welcoming a group to Special Olympics as well, I think September 28th or so. So we'll look forward to that. But we're very lucky to have it. If you haven't been out to the facility, I know they're looking forward to giving tours. Also, last week I attended an informational there was an informational meeting about Prop D, which is the gas tax, which will be on the November ballot for safermo.com. And Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe made a presentation and gave information about that. So I will make sure that we distribute that information to council as well, and that council will be able to distribute that information out to the public as well. That will be on the November ballot. Also, over the weekend, there was Jefferson City Rocks, or JC Rocks, had an event. You've probably seen all the painted rocks around town. Many of you have discovered them. And I was actually given a rock that day, and I will make sure we display it here in City Hall. If you can see this, it has the city seal on it. And this was hand-painted by Tina Brondell. It has hashtag JC Rock on the back. But we'll make sure and display this here at City Hall. Charity Hall, who started the movement here in Jefferson City, she received a proclamation for Charity Hall Day for all of her efforts in making this happen. There are thousands of people on the Facebook page. That was something that was started in other cities, and she replicated that here in Jefferson City. So JC Rocks has been bringing joy to people here in the community. So that was a very cool event. And last announcement is I was honored to receive the Arrive Alive Award, and this was given out at the Highway Safety Heroes Awards on September 11th, and people from all around the state were honored, and it was great to have that here in Jefferson City for our efforts with Buckle Up, Phone Down. So I have this special award. It says, Together We Save Lives, the Central Region Coalition for Roadway Safety Arrive Alive Award. So on that note, I will have you mark your calendars for the second annual Buckle Up, Phone Down Day, which is Friday, October 19th, although that's something we celebrate every day of the year. So kind of like our birthday, wish we could celebrate that every day. Well, we can celebrate Buckle Up, Phone Down Day every day of the year, but the official day is October 19th. So we will look forward to that. So with that, do we have other council announcements? Any committees coming up that anybody wants to announce? Okay. Councilman Fitzwater?
Just had a question on your Prop D presentation. Is there an opportunity for the city to be involved in that initiative effort or anything that we ought to be doing as a city?
Yes, we are working on that, doing some informational about the Prop D, and I think Councilor Malman will compile some information that the council can present at a council meeting so that we can do something maybe in the form of a resolution that would have informational purposes that would tell about the initiative. And Lieutenant Governor Kehoe had a very good presentation as well, so we'll make sure we can get those materials out to council and to the public.
I'll have something prepared for the next council meeting in October.
Okay, so we'll plan then on the October 1st council meeting to have something that we can use for Prop D. Okay, thank you. All right, and we have an announcement by Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I have two regarding two public involvement events. Jeff Tran and Campo have been working together on some service changes, which involve changing some routes and hopefully trying to address servicing new customers. They have a public meeting across the hall in the Boone Bancroft room next Tuesday between 2:30 and 4:30. On the website, they also have a survey that can be taken and also some maps that depict the actual proposed route changes. I'd encourage people that are interested in Jeff Tran to attend that meeting. The other opportunity regards analysis of impediments. Our Neighborhood Services Group has been working with the Mid-Missouri Regional Planning Commission and has developed a document that identifies barriers to affordable housing in the community. And they're having a meeting here in this room next Tuesday between 3 and 4 p.m. And that document is available on the city website. And I'd encourage people to attend both those events and take a look at what they're about on our homepage.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Any questions? Okay. Item 9, Lincoln University Student Representative Update. Ms. Wanjaro.
This little guy? There we go. It works. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I just have two announcements. We have a football game coming up on Saturday at 6 p.m. It's a home game. And also a reminder, Dr. Woolfolk's inauguration is on October 5th at 10 a.m. at the Link. And later that evening will be the inaugural ball. Thank you.
Thank you. We're looking forward to those events for Lincoln University. And they had we enjoyed the home football game. They didn't win, but that was still a good day for it, so it was good to be there. Item 10, presentations from the gallery on specific bills or resolutions. We have nobody signed up this evening. We haven't had anyone signed up, so I think officially we would need to have council vote to allow a speaker. So would anyone like to make that motion? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Okay, welcome.
Do you need to know my name or anything
yes,
else?
please. If you would like to give us your name, we just need your name for the record.
For the record, my name is Ed Williams. The Chamber of Commerce is again trying to take advantage of citizens with Fitzwater's proposal to allow a chamber member to vote to give money to the chamber. This is an attempt to make certain that unethical vote to give money to your organization is preserved. It does recognize that Ken Hussey's votes were unethical in the past few years, but that's nothing new. Chamber members are afraid that a spotlight will be shown on their devious and dishonest behavior. That is only a preemptive strike because citizens are waking up to the dirty tricks of the chamber. Maybe you did not get the message. The attempt to send shoppers to the Capitol Mall with the use tax was soundly defeated with a 58% no vote. Naturally, it was sponsored by a chamber member, McAlvich. We pay taxes, you give it to the chamber for no good reason, and they use it to propose a tax to help their member make up for a poor business decision, that being buying the mall. The small number of votes can be attributed, yes votes can be attributed to chamber members, their spouses, and employees. Now you're trying to write unethical actions into the city charter to guard dishonesty. There is absolutely no reason that any member of the chamber should be able to vote to give money to the chamber. Conflict of interest is still very obvious. The proposal even reveals a low character of the chamber and its council members. If you want to do something to improve ethics, you will write that no member of an organization will be allowed to vote for a proposal to give money to that organization. Your goal, after all, is not to promote ethics, but to preserve unethical conduct. Conflict of interest should not be permitted under any circumstances. Fitzwater's attempts to lock in dishonesty is offensive to honest people. The people of Jefferson City deserve better than an underhanded, dishonest city council. The chamber has a lot of resources, but out of touch and out of step with citizens. The chamber has decided to use arrogance and greed as their guiding principle. Besides the use tax, the chamber attempted to give control of property in the county to real estate interest. Their campaign was full of lies, scare tactics, and political tricks. It was defeated by a 65% no vote where it would apply. Ken Hussey attempted to steal $40 million from citizens and spent $80,000 to try to do it. 60% of voters said no. It is time you got the message. We do not want the chamber to control our money or our lives. This is not a close call. Any honest person will vote no on the change in the city charter. You do not even have to justify your yes vote if you vote yes, and some of you will. If you vote to lock dishonesty into the city charter, we will know that you embrace the chamber and their dishonesty and greed. Now, I feel sure there won't be any questions, comments. You'll wait till I'm out of sight to challenge what I said, but I'm right here. If you want to say something, say it.
Okay, thank you. Councilman
Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
You referenced the city charter in your comments here. I'm curious as to what specific, what are you addressing when you say that we're trying to lock something into the charter?
There's a proposal in the city charter, according to the News Tribune, and since the editor is a member of the chamber, I don't think he will make a mistake, to prevent a member of the board of directors, well, I call it a governing body, to vote on any proposal to give money to that organization. And of course, and it's aimed at the Chamber of Commerce. There's no question about that. But the goal is to put off, so some of the citizens will have, not think that this is unethical, which it is,
but to let any member of the chamber vote to give money to the chamber, which is totally unethical. In any other place in the country, I bet that would not be accepted or even proposed. I'm offended that this proposal would even see the light of day. You want to put unethical conduct into the city charter.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Any other?
In the proposed charter changes
Actually, not to interrupt, but I think that's all for Mr. Williams. You're welcome to have a seat, and then now we're asking
I'll stay
staff
up here in
questions.
case there's any clarification needed.
Well, if there's any questions for Ed, we're going to ask them now, and then we'll ask questions of staff. Any further questions for Mr. Williams? Thank you. Mr. Molman.
In the proposed changes forwarded by the Charter Review Committee, it includes a addition to the prohibitions clause in Article 12, which would prevent any member of a governing body of a local or a political subdivision or nonprofit corporation from voting on any contract with that governing body or local nonprofit. So, if a member of the council were on the governing body of a nonprofit, then and a piece of business came before the city council to approve a contract with that nonprofit, then a member that member who also sits on the board of directors or the governing body of the nonprofit would not be able to vote on that particular piece of legislation. It conflicts out certain members from voting on certain types of business.
Thank you. Any further questions of council for staff? Okay. Item 11, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, bills introduced, 2018-51.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by appropriating additional funds within the J.C. Veterans Plaza Trust Fund.
Mr. Marash? Sorry,
yes.
Mr. Smith. Sorry, Mr. Smith.
This bill would authorize a supplemental appropriation within the Veterans Plaza Fund. The funds would be used ultimately for some design fees associated with making some improvements and expansions within the Veterans Plaza. For those that are not familiar, the Veterans Plaza is the memorial brick area in front of our police department. Funds that arrived in the Veterans Plaza Fund from people purchasing those memorial bricks.
All right. So not general fund. Great. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Smith? All right. 2018-52.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by appropriating additional funds within the general fund.
Chief Schrader.
Thank you. This bill authorizes a supplemental appropriation to FY 2018 budget with funds received in the tract foam settlement in the amount of $122,828.56. This is intended to comply with action taken by the council at a budget committee meeting on August 23rd. And additionally, we ask that the 2018 budget, the funds in for this purpose, automatically be reappropriated to the 2019 budget to accommodate the actual delivery of the 4 new police vehicles we intend to purchase with those funds.
Thank you. Councilman Prather.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to suspend the rules and have a third reading tonight.
Thank you. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll take up 2018-52.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by appropriating additional funds within the general fund.
Any further council deliberation? Okay, roll call, please.
Prather,
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham. Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2018-53.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the maintenance of sidewalks on Missouri Boulevard constructed by the project number TAP-3100 524.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This bill would authorize an agreement for the maintenance of sidewalks to be constructed. The sidewalks will be funded through a grant and are planned to be installed between Waverly Street and Beck Street along Missouri Boulevard. Missouri Boulevard is on State Highway and is maintained by the Highway Department, or MoDOT. MoDOT has asked that if the city chooses to install those sidewalks, that we would take those over for maintenance as well. As the council and mayor are aware, the sidewalk maintenance associated with properties within the city are then delegated to the individual property owners. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thanks. 2018-54.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, changing, amending, and modifying the zoning map of the zoning code of the City of Jefferson by rezoning 41 acres generally described as a portion of the area south of Dunklin Street, east of Highway 54, and west of Jefferson Street, consisting of 139 property parcels from RA2 High Density Residential and C2 General Commercial to RS4 Single Family Residential.
Mr. Barron?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the clerk read, this bill involves the rezoning of a significant area, an entire neighborhood, so to speak, from its existing RA2, which is a multifamily residential zoning district, downzoning it to an RS4, which is a single-family residential district, so downzoning from an apartment zoning to a single-family zoning. The neighborhood is outlined in yellow up on the screen. As the clerk read, it includes 139 individual properties. So up on the screen is a zoning map for the area. All of the green area, well, the area is highlighted in a darker green, but including some of the area outside of the proposed rezoning, the green area is an RA2 zoning. There is a small portion of C2 zoning, just enough worth mentioning, over here in the far northwestern corner of the area. Not very much, and literally not even an entire parcel, but technically there is some C2 zoning included in there. This rezoning is a recommendation of the Old Munich Southside neighborhood plan that was recently adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission and also endorsed by the City Council. It is one component of a land use plan. Staff have divided the land use plan for that neighborhood plan up into several components, and so this is the first rezoning that staff is bringing forward that is recommended by that plan. Staff did conduct a land use survey for the area, and I know there are a lot of different colors and up on the screen. The two that are most relevant for this is really the green and the red. And so the area is outlined in blue. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a blue area outlining the proposed rezoning area. And what this slide is meant to show is that the properties that are shown in green are single-family properties, so houses with single-family use on them. The properties shown in red are houses that were once single-family but have since been converted into multiple units. So we refer to them as conversions. So they were not originally constructed as multiple units. They were converted at some time in the past, which was legal under the existing RA zoning. And so staff are bringing forward this both as a recommendation of that Southside plan. This is the land use component of that plan with the area highlighted or outlined in blue. The beige color is that recommendation for single-family residential long-term use. This zoning would establish that. I will mention that there are protections within the zoning code for properties that are being used as either single-family or duplex, and so the relevant issue is duplex here. That if they were to burn or be destroyed by natural causes, they can be rebuilt in their current footprint of the structure. And so this also the existing conversions, uses that are not single-family within this area could continue as non-conforming or grandfathered uses in perpetuity unless they were voluntarily demolished and rebuilt, in which case they would have to conform to the zoning, single-family zoning, or if they were voluntarily converted back to single-family use, they would lose any grandfathered status they have. So this would not have an immediate effect on any of the multiple unit conversions of buildings within the neighborhood, but long-term would result in a gradual shift back to a single-family neighborhood, which is its primary use, as shown by the amount of green that is contained within the area. We did hold a neighborhood informational meeting on this matter on August 21st. And the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this proposed rezoning at their special meeting of August 28th and is scheduled for a public hearing at the next council meeting, October 1st, which would starts at 6 p.m. in this room. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Barron? Councilman Hussey?
The multifamily units that exist here, I noticed the feedback from planning and zoning, and there was only a couple individuals that spoke on the request. There's no other correspondence. I guess I'm somewhat shocked that more of these owners of these properties didn't have any feedback to provide. Or is it because they're okay with it, or did notice of this change really reach some of these potential multifamily property owners?
We did mail notices to all property owners within the area. We did post 3 different signs within the neighborhood, and it has gotten some media attention.
Do the mailings go to the actual property itself, or does it go to the owner listed for the property?
It goes to the owner. It goes to the same address that a tax bill would go to. And so I think that I believe that one of the reasons that there was not a lot of concern is because they are protected by the zoning, by the grandfathering, non-conforming nature of their use, that it can continue as long as, again, they don't voluntarily demolish or convert the building. And so from that perspective, they are protected. Their investment is protected. It's only for buildings that are above a 2-unit building, large apartment buildings or commercial uses where non-conforming type issues, such as the nursing home that we heard earlier this evening, becomes a major concern.
Do we track, I guess, in this particular footprint, what the increase has been over a period of time from a single family to a multifamily? You talked about the 40 plus. Did it go from 20 to 40 within the last decade, or have we kind of been consistent in these numbers for a while?
Oh, you mean in terms of the number of conversions?
Yeah.
I don't have actual statistics. I don't know of any real good way to get those, but in general, the history, as I understand it, is a lot of the conversions really took place many years ago. Literally in my time at the city, the last 12 years, I only recall one building being converted to multiple, one single-family home being converted to multiple units. So it's not as much of a danger or as much of a trend as I think it has been in the past. I believe that many conversions were 30 or more years ago.
So I guess I would follow that up by saying the catalyst for making this change then is what if we don't see a major conversion of properties. I give respect to that one property owner who made a comment at P&Z. I think it's about his mother's home that's large, and he's worried about that investment and being able to sell it. if there's not this great change from single family to multifamily taking place, are we somewhat restricting what a property owner may want to do with their piece of property, especially when it's already very mixed within this area to begin with in terms of uses?
Yes, and I can understand that. I believe that the zoning, it would serve two or three purposes. One is to prevent any future conversions. As I just mentioned, it doesn't seem that many of those occur, but that does not mean that they couldn't occur at any time. So any property within this area could legally convert their unit to multiple, their building to multiple units, literally upon issuance of the building permit. Two, so the downzoning of the property would prevent that. Two, it would ensure for current and future single-family homeowners that none of their neighbors could do such a thing. That long-term, that when they look at investing and buying a home within this neighborhood, they can be assured by the municipal zoning ordinance that that none of their neighbors are going to be able to come in and convert their building to multiple units and kind of take one more chunk out of what they believe should be a single-family area as they buy a home and invest in it. And then three, long-term, I think that if you look in the area, you can see there's several examples of conversions that have not had what I would call a positive effect on the neighborhood. That there are several buildings that have been converted that when you look at them from the street views and such, they look to be a little sardine canned in there. And long term, this would hopefully result in those buildings being converted back to single family homes, where someone who's interested in investing in a property and actually converting it back to single family would not only be ensured that their investment is going to be surrounded by future single family uses, but they can just have that assurance that they'd be living in a neighborhood rather than an apartment area. I hope that that's answered some of your questions. Again, a little bit more of what we believe on the staff level.
Councilman Mahalovich?
I think this is an example of the public asking for a neighborhood change that was the result of a real detailed study of that area, and saw that mainly Capital Region being the main investor in the planning study, found that we can make that South Side neighborhood improve the investments of the people in that area by going about a structured plan. And so I appreciate how Cap Region had been the emphasis for that planning, and we adopted it as a council, and I think directed staff to pursue that plan. So this is another step towards that direction, and I look forward to other actions in the area with the CDC and the other actions that are planned, two-way Monroe, maybe some things on Adams Street to start really securing that neighborhood and the investments of the folks in that area.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion? Okay, thank you. Item 13, bills pending. 2018-34 we've taken up. 2018-46.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with All Seasons Landscaping and Construction Incorporated for the operation of a public compost site.
Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our yard waste compost contract expires at the end of this fiscal year. Earlier in the spring, we conducted a survey to get a feeling of what the citizens expected and how they use a compost site and yard waste drop-off and what their needs were. And as a result of that survey, we crafted a request for proposal, and we have received one bid. It is from the existing contract provider, All Seasons Landscape. This bill would authorize executing a contract with them for the same services they have been providing. One additional thing that is in this contract is the possibility or the availability of a curbside pickup option for folks that don't have a truck or a car and do need to get yard waste to the compost site. It would remain free for citizens to drop off yard waste and to pick up compost. There would be a small tipping fee if you had various sized trucks that you wanted loaded with the compost. The good part of this contract is it is lower than the existing contract, and over the course of 5 years, it would save about $106,000. I'd be glad to answer any questions regarding this.
Thank you. I know at the last meeting, Councilman Graham had brought up concerns in the neighborhood. Were you able to address that?
Yes, we looked back in our records, and all we could find that had been reported to us was an issue in around 2014. Mr. Shepperly, we asked him. He says he's not had a complaint to the site in the last 2 or 3 years. There are existing codes that prevent obnoxious odors from coming from the site. It's my understanding that when you do compost, naturally there is decomposition, and there's a chance for odor, and normally that's when the material hasn't been turned appropriately mixed. A lot of green material will stay matted together, and you may get a more obnoxious smell. When there is a smell, it can be addressed almost immediately by just going out there with his equipment and doing what he does and in terms of turning the compost material. Those are the only complaints that we have. We encourage anybody that has any sort of noise or nuisance complaints to go ahead and contact our office.
Okay, thank you. Any council questions? Was there a hand over here? Oh, perfect. Okay. Any further? Okay. Roll call, please.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham. Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Bill passes. 2018-47.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Fritz Mechanical doing business as Central Missouri Plumbing, LLC for plumbing maintenance services.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam Mayor, as the clerk noted, this is for providing plumbing services. For many years, the city has bid an on-call plumbing service for city facilities. This is a continuation of that. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Roll call, please.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham. Hensley.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Bill passes. Item 14, informal calendar. We have several items on there. I'll call on the sponsor, Councilman Hussey, and ask what you'd like to do, and Councilman Fitzwater. Just leave those on the informal. Okay, so at that point, this is the last, or they will die on the October 1 agenda, it looks like. Okay, any further discussion? Okay. Item 2018-45.
Let's pull it.
Pull it off the informal? Okay, so we will take up 2018-45. We also have a substitute bill. Mrs. Donaldson.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 30, Solid Waste, Article 1, Code of the City of Jefferson, pertaining to the definition of responsible party.
Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the clerk indicated, this would authorize a code change which basically just redefines the term responsible party in our code regarding single-family and multifamily duplexes, basically 1 and 2 unit properties. It outlines more straightforward that the property owner is responsible for maintaining trash service, but that they can assign it to the tenant. Mr. Moldman drafted a substitute bill which actually includes that language, which says it's not preventing the owner from assigning that responsibility to the tenant. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or council discussion? Councilman Hussey?
I'd like to make a motion to take up the substitute.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to take up the substitute. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Councilman Fitzwater?
There was a comment at the last meeting from, I think, Mr. Shrimp, talking about some of the current contracts don't have this language in there. does this give them the ability to get their leases changed if they don't have that language in, so it protects the landowners?
I'd refer to Mr. Molman on that question.
So nothing in this bill requires any contract, any lease between a property owner and tenant to change. And so if the property owner wanted to change his contract, he could do that with his tenant at any time, or when a lease expires and it's up for renewal, or there's a new lease. But nothing in this bill requires any property owner from changing what is in their lease. So any change to a lease could happen. That's the business of the landowner and their tenant. It can happen at any time that's mutually convenient for those parties. The city is not involved in those contractual relationships.
I just got the impression from him that if they hadn't addressed it, there might be a time gap until they do that. Does that give all parties protections until that gets changed?
This amendment is meant to be inserted seamlessly into those relationships, and so if a property owner wants to change how he is doing business, he can do that at any time, assuming that the tenant is willing to enter into some sort of change to the lease. But nothing that is included within this bill is requiring him to do that, or a landlord to do that. So there's no real protections to be had. They can continue to do business as they always have under this bill. This bill only really looks at the city's ability to enforce the trash service requirement to the landlord. But nothing's requiring a landlord to change any contract or any lease.
One other question. There was a group that testified that was going to submit some comments. Did they ever submit comments to you?
I believe Mr. Sanders was in some contact with the Board of Realtors.
I did talk to the Board of Realtors representative and forwarded him the substitute bill, and he did indicate that it did address one of their issues. The other one was, I think we're talking about it in terms of the responsibility and relationship between the property owner and the tenant and how that works. But they are aware, and we've not received any sort of other text amendments or any other communication like that on this bill.
Thank you. Councilman Hesse?
And I would certainly add that my desire to pull it off and at least entertain put the substitute kind of into our discussion is just to get that language there. And if the council is not comfortable yet passing something, we can certainly postpone this again correctly. We can go back on the informal or a motion to postpone for another 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. My understanding to address the concerns about the Board of Realtors really deals with concerns about would Republic Services, under the changes that we're proposing, would they permit a tenant of a single family or duplex rental unit, the tenant, to establish the trash service and work directly with the tenant, or would they only at that point in time work with the property owner? Mr. Molman shared with me that this does nothing to change the contract between the city and Republic, which allows for a tenant of one of these properties to enter into a trash agreement or services of that regard. So I think we're kind of covered there. I think the amendment sort of clarifies the transfer of responsibility, or the change in language that a landlord can transfer that to a tenant. What we're trying to look for is just ultimately, is there somebody to be held responsible at the end? But a lease agreement can dictate that the tenant needs to have the trash service and put it all in their hands to maintain it. if the city determines the trash service is not being, or is not been established at that residence, they'll work with the landlord to rectify that, who can then turn to their tenant and say, you're supposed to have this, correct?
That's an accurate assessment.
Any further questions? Councilman Prather?
Just a comment. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the city not being able to enforce the codes the way they are, so we're trying to transfer the responsibility onto the building owners and the property managers to some expense that they probably weren't ready for either. So I'd like to look further into possibly finding a way to just be able to enforce the codes that we have.
Well, and if the property owners are making sure that either they or their tenants, one or the other, is providing trash service, it shouldn't be an issue. So those property owners that are maintaining and taking care of their property, then it won't be an added expense or an extra expense because their tenant can pay directly. So the tenant can still pay trash, so it should not be any extra burden on the property owner, as long as the property owner does their responsibility of making sure that their tenant has trash service, or that they do, one or the other.
So you're saying that the landlord would be responsible if the tenant didn't get trash service?
Yes. But the
But there's no way
landlord needs to make sure that the tenant has trash service. As we saw the examples at the last meeting when they all piled up in, let's say, in the house. Maybe you can explain it better than I can, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The problem with enforcing our codes the way they are, it's not the code per se, it's that we don't know who the tenant is. We have to identify the tenant in order to be able to summons them to court to take action on getting them to have trash service. That's where the gotcha is in doing this. So I would envision that we send the letter to the occupant, is what we do, and the property owner. The property owner would say, aha, my tenant does not have trash service. I better either give the code enforcement people his name, a copy of the lease, so we can identify him. I'm not sure legally if that would work. I'm assuming it would. And then we would know who the tenant is. Right now, we have no way of knowing who the tenant is. Our landlord registration pertains to knowing who the property owner is so we can get in contact with them in case of an emergency or something like that. We're not tracking who the tenants are. So that is the problem we have, and we were hoping this bill would help address that.
And that's another key component, is there is notice given. So a property owner would not be in a position where they did not know that their tenant did not have trash service. There is that communication piece. So really there should be no situation that a property owner that's maintaining their property would be in a bind. If they're not, then it gives the city the recourse that they need. But this can all still be done through the tenant. The tenant can have the service directly through Republic. Yes. Mr. Sanders?
Sorry for interrupting. It's like any other utilities that are out there. The property owner is probably not getting cable, maybe not getting electricity or water or other services, and that utility is able to engage into a contract with that tenant, and that tenant is pretty much responsible for that. So it's just like any other utility is a way to look at it.
So, for instance, you brought up electric. You're saying that the electric company could go after the owner if the tenant doesn't pay their bill?
That's not really the logic I was trying to get at.
Oh, okay, but that's kind of what I'm getting
Yeah,
at.
I'm not sure
Okay.
how that works.
Because if they're able to do it, we should be able to do it, is what I was thinking. Maybe we need to change the way we're doing it is all.
Did you want to elaborate on that?
Go ahead.
With the trash service, like with electrical, gas, sewer, those things, when the city finds out under city ordinance that a property, a rental property, does not have those required services or utilities, the owner of the property is responsible for those. It's the owner of the property that gets summoned. It's the owner of the property that's responsible for that property being condemned, being vacated. So it's in line with that. We don't deal with the billing for sewer, for water, gas, any of that. That's between the tenant and that utility. We deal with the safety and the life, quality is what we're looking at. Same thing we do for gas, electrical, sewer, all that.
Councilman Hensley?
Thank you. This will be very, very brief. Just want to make sure I have the correct understanding. Currently, property owners can assign both the task of establishing trash service and the responsibility and the consequences that go along with not following the ordinance to their tenant. And under this amendment, they would still be able to assign the task, but they could no longer assign the consequences. Is that right?
I think that's fair.
Thank you.
Any further questions or council deliberation? Councilman Hussey?
And I would simply add, the motion before us right now is just to take the substitute language and insert that in place of the bill that's presented. Now, if people aren't comfortable with that, that's certainly fine. I think the substitute language is a little bit better than the original bill. It attempts to clarify some of the questions and concerns that were expressed at the last council meeting from staff, but it's not a final vote. And so if the council's not ready for that, we can certainly not have that decision tonight.
Well, why don't we take up the, if council's ready, we could take up the substitute and then, or take up adding the substitute. We have a motion and second on the table for the substitute, and then if that passes or not, then we would take up either the bill originally or the bill as substituted. Is that a good plan? Councilman Mahalovich?
I'll be voting for the substitute, but I would prefer, I will vote against if we bring it up, the bill itself, but fearing that the bill could pass, the substitute's better than what we have, so that'd be my logic.
Okay. So at this time, we have a motion and second, so we will do roll call on adding the substitute.
Wiseman, Fitzwater, Graham, Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Schreiber, Ward.
Aye.
Okay, substitute passes, so
I've-
now,
I've
Oh.
got my vote, aye.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead here. Sorry about that, Councilman Fitzwater. Okay, so we have, the bill now is substituted. Councilman Hussey?
I'd like to postpone this bill for action until, are we October 1st council meeting? Is that our next council meeting? Until the October 1st council meeting. Motion to postpone this bill until October 1st council meeting.
Second.
So there's a motion and second to postpone. So in the discussion portion, what specific information are we lacking at this meeting? It seems like, or am I lacking, are the questions been answered, or is there still?
I've got some people talk to me about this, and I haven't got back with them with regard to this, and I'd just like to bounce it off a few
Okay.
folks. And that's me.
Oh, sure, okay. Totally respect that, just making sure, because I know that it's been very thorough discussion here, but that's fine there. Any other discussion on whether to postpone? Okay, roll call, please.
Fitzwater,
Aye.
Graham, Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Kimna,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather, Schreiber, Ward,
Aye.
Wiseman.
Okay, so this has been postponed to the October 1 meeting. Okay. Let's see here. Item 15A, RS 2018-14.
A resolution authorizing the city administrator to limit enforcement of parking regulations on October 8th, 2018.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, as the clerk read, this bill would limit enforcement on the upcoming Columbus holiday. As the council may are aware, that Columbus Day is a state holiday, but it is not a city holiday, and at times that can lead to confusion by our parking customers as to the enforcement. This bill is intended to help try to alleviate that confusion, and is only in reference to the upcoming Columbus Day, which will be October 8th of this year.
Any discussion? Oh, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Councilman Fitzwater?
Yeah, I was just going to report to the other members of council. There was some discussion about 3 separate dates. We asked that Columbus Day be separated. There's 2 dates in February that the committee will continue to discuss and probably come back to council, but we want wanted additional information for those two, so we split it off, and this issue came for vote tonight.
Okay. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Graham, Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Item 16, presentations from the gallery on other topics. We have nobody signed up this evening. Okay, would there be anyone on council to make a motion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so we'll have Glover allow him his 3 minutes.
Or briefer.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had two questions. One, at the last meeting, I just wanted to know, Reverend Gould was unable to attend that meeting. She was unable to be here tonight, I'm assuming because of family personal matters. One, there was a letter that was written. I didn't receive my copy prior to the meeting last time, but it was written to the mayor and the city council, and I just wanted to know if everyone had received a copy of that letter, and if so, was it made an official part of the record?
I'll have to look back.
City clerk will look and see if that's been made a part of the record.
Okay, and then the second one was, Councilman Mahalovich wasn't here at the last meeting, but the last meeting when it was broadcast out over the network, the internet, the audio or the visual portion of the meeting was blacked out. And so none of the city council meeting was able to be viewed by the viewers. And I wanted to know if you all were aware of that, and if so, are there any corrective measures that could be done to where that can still be broadcast, or what can we do?
We could ask JCT.
Probably JCTV issue, I would assume. So we'll let them know.
Okay, well, I mean, it was out there, so I was just wondering, is there any way that that meeting can be retrieved, or if not, we need to know that too? And when could I find out if that's been made a part of the record?
I can look tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
I can look tomorrow.
Okay.
And let you know.
Thank you.
So Emily will see if it's already been made, and if not, she will make it, and you're welcome to call
Tomorrow?
tomorrow.
All right.
Call
Thank you
Mrs.
all.
Donaldson.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you. And somebody will check on the JCTV. I know it's not necessarily a guarantee that the audio and video quality always comes out as expected, but we'll certainly check on it. Any, item 17, any council and discussion, staff discussion on presentation topics? Item, yes. All right. All right, I take that back. My mom and dad tune in. We have two, plus two. 18, any new business? 19, we have a motion for approval of 9-4 closed session minutes. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hensley,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Kimna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Thank.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber. Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman. Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Motion passes. 20, any unfinished business? And 21, a motion to adjourn.